Hi everyone, I'm Glenda with SureFit Designs. Today I'm going to talk about the lady who's got a large backside and that she often gets diagonal wrinkles going towards that backside when she's wearing a skirt. It's a quick and easy tune-up to do on your SureFit Design skirt pattern, but first of all, let's take a look at the telltale symptoms and what might be the situation that you're experiencing. As we look at this illustration, we've got the skirt where the diagonal wrinkles are pointing towards that full buttocks area. You may or may not have a sway back. The skirt often will flip out at the back. Very definitely, the skirt hem does not hang parallel to the floor. And the other telltale sign is that the side seam does not hang down the center of your leg. Obviously, the objective is to have the skirt look like this. So again, you may or may not have that sway back, but you do have that full backside. Now look at how the skirt is hanging. It's hanging perfect off of the fullest part of your backside. The hem is parallel to the floor and the side seam is going straight down the middle of your leg. Now what's important here is that obviously, you need to have measured your hip circumference properly. And if you haven't measured it too tight and you're still getting this situation, then what I'm going to do is have you do this to your test skirt. And assuming that you've made a test skirt out of muslin or some other fabric, what I then want you to do is in the fullest hip area of your body where you're seeing the most of those drag lines going towards, I want you to cut it from side seam to side seam all the way across, but not through the side seam. And then what you're going to do is open up that split in your skirt, put a contrasting piece of fabric behind, pin it at the top, and then open that split up. And you might open it up 5/8 of an inch, pin it at the bottom, and then put the skirt back on. And take a look at how it's hanging on your body. If the back is hanging properly off of your buttocks, and it's parallel to the floor, and the side seam is hanging as it's supposed to on your legs, well then you're good to go. So now what I'm going to do is show you that very simple change on the skirt pattern. What you need to do is draw a line going across your pattern from center back at the fullest hip circumference of where you've made that change actually on your skirt pattern. I'm going to take this line all the way through to the seam allowance, but I'm not going to cut through the seam allowance. Actually, what I'm going to do now is cut on this line up to the seam allowance. I'll make a circle there so you can actually see that. That's going to become my pivot point. And because I'm going to pivot this right there, or pivot the pattern right there, I'm going to place a piece of tape over top like that. And now what I need to do is cut from the side up to that pivot point like this. And I'm going to cut a nice straight line right here up to the pivot point from this direction like that. Now what I'm going to do is pivot at that point and open the skirt up at center back. And earlier I talked about 5/8 to 1 inch of opening there. It really is going to be dependent on how much you needed for the fullness of your backside. And I'll just put the tracing vellum behind. And again, you folks who have worked with the tracing vellum know how lovely this paper is for doing these kinds of things, because when you draw on it, it just doesn't bleed through, and it just is really wonderful. And of course, when you're doing this with pencil, you can erase to your heart's content, and it's not going to go into holes like a lot of, I know people use doctor's exam table paper, and gosh, that stuff is just so thin that if you do make a mistake and you need to erase it, that it just rips so easily. Okay, so now I have the opening that's required. Now that opening, of course, adding fabric to or space to your pattern is going to allow this pattern now to hang down properly over top of your buttocks. Now we need to take a look at what happened here and how we can true this all up. So the very first thing to do is you want to make sure that you maintain this waist point, that your waist circumference doesn't change, because that was an area, of course, that was adequately fitting you properly. And so now I'm going to take the long edge of this grain ruler and I'm just going to draw from the center back at the waist level down to my hem level. So I've got a nice trued center back, and I'll mark that in red as center back. And now I also need to mark a new grain line, and so I'll just use my grain ruler and come over approximately 2 inches, and I'll make this grain line marking a little bit longer so there's no obvious conflict with the original blue one that I had there. So you can really see that. So, a couple of things. First of all, notice how much I've lost in the circumference of the hip area. And so I need to add that amount back on to the side seam. Get that out of the way. I'm going to measure this, and that's approximately 3/8 of an inch. So you're going to add 3/8 to the actual stitching line, but then you need to add your 5/8 inch seam allowance right here. So I'll mark that. And there's my new cutting line, and I need to connect that up to the cutting point of the side seam at the waistline. And I'll just use this curvature on the hip right here, and I'll do this a long dotted red line so that you can see that. And now here, depending on how this is ultimately going to hang, you may want to blend this back down. In fact, I could likely go like this with the long edge of the straight edge like this, or you could in fact take this all the way down like this, just adding a little bit more width to that side seam. For this, I'm just going to true it right back up. Part of this is going to depend how it does hang on your body. Am I on the paper? Yes, I am. Okay, so now I've got the new trued side seam, and watch what happens here when I just lift that up. When I now take that new red line that is the new center back, and I put that on the grain line of the grain board, you can see what's happened is that it has shifted this skirt more towards your the side seam. So it shifted the skirt to hang it straight down. It shifted the side seam more, how shall I say, towards the front of the skirt, so that that's what's going to make that side seam hang down more evenly down the center of your leg. So that's a very easy tune-up to do. Now for this and many other videos that SureFit Designs provides you on how to get the best fit properly for your body, make sure that you go on over to either of our websites, surefitdesigns.com or the SureFit Designs Learning Center. And when you're there, I'm going to ask you to join the SureFit Designs community. And how do you do that? 3 easy steps. Number 1, if you haven't already, please sign up for the newsletter. By doing that, you're going to get email updates of new videos that I produce and new events that might be happening on the website, new products. As well as that, you're going to get some free gifts to get you started with SureFit Designs if you're new to SureFit. I would also encourage you to subscribe here to the SureFit Designs YouTube channel and make sure you like this video. So with that, thanks so much for watching, and please make sure that you watch more SureFit Designs videos because I know they're really going to help you with any fitting issues that you might have.